Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm going to be making a follow-up video on my forklift here. Now, since I posted, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it. I've gotten a lot of good suggestions, recommendations on stuff that I upgrade on it. Some of it's the steering. There's kits out there that'll make the steering much easier to steer, especially considering I put a lot more weight on that portion of the tractor than what it was originally designed for. Quite a few different suggestions on what I could possibly do with the actuator if I wanted to upgrade that down the road. And then a few people suggested do a double pulley, which will definitely help with how much this thing will lift up in the air. So one of the things I definitely will be doing is the steering. But if y'all want to see some extra follow-up videos on this thing as I do make these upgrades, leave me a comment. Let me know. I'll make some more videos of some upgrades I'm doing. But for today's focus, it's going to be all about how much this thing will carry. I was asked that question. I'm sure a lot of people are kind of wondering that, including myself. I really don't know how much this thing's going to really carry. So I already done the double pulley upgrade just to aid in the lifting capacity. I did notice it does go up and down just a little bit slower than it did before, but it's a lot smoother. So I think that's going to play a really good part in how much it's going to lift. So then I started thinking, what can I use to try to gauge how much weight I'm putting on this thing? So I figured cinder blocks, because I already got cinder blocks on hand. And I Googled and I found out that cinder blocks are roughly about 28 pounds a piece. So my plan here is I'm going to put a platform on the forks. I'm going to start off with like 4 of them on there. I'm going to lift it up and down. And I'm going to move the tractor back and forth. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to add blocks to it until either I reach capacity or I run out of blocks, one of the two. And at that point, then what I'll do is I'll times that by the 28 of how many are on there. And that should really give me a good ballpark of essentially how much weight this thing's actually carrying. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see how this turns out. Let's hope I don't break it, and hope you all enjoy. All right, so I'm going to be performing this test outside, and the reason I want to perform it outside is I want to be able to, use the yard as a little bit more resistance than if I was just going to be inside my shop on my nice smooth floor. Because the one thing I really want to know is how much will this thing carry, not necessarily how much it will lift per se. Because with using a 2,000-pound winch, as long as my welds hold, this thing should be able to, obviously lift more than 1,000+ pounds technically. But what I want to know is how much will this thing carry and still be able to perform, as far as drive, turn, go up and down inclines, slopes, the whole 9 yards, from the front yard to the backyard and all that kind of stuff. So I figured outdoors would be the best way to perform this test. And as I was saying, I'm going to be using the cinder blocks because the cinder blocks, according to online, they're about 28 pounds a piece. So I started off with 4 blocks. Just did a little pass where I'm backing up, going up that incline, coming back down, and I'm adding 2 more blocks at a time each time I do that. So I'm adding an additional 50-something pounds each time I do it. At this point in time, I'm roughly around the 336-pound mark. And that's just based off, going with the 28 pounds per block formula. I could be a little bit less. I could be a little bit more. It's really hard to say for sure, but I'm going to be somewhere in the ballpark about 336 pounds at this moment in time. And you see, I'm just going to making a quick pass around the yard, going around a couple trees, doing some turning left, right, going up a little incline. You see it kind of tips a little to the side here. I want to see how well it does with the balance aspect of it. Make sure the tires ain't, squishing down so much that it feels like it's going to topple over on me. And so far, it's actually been performing pretty good, despite essentially what it's made out of. This next test I'm going to be doing, I want to know if, say, like I was to jump off the tractor with, say, 300-something pounds on there, is it just going to topple forward? So I added an extra counterweight to the back. You see how I lifted it up? The back tire stayed on the ground. Now, if I manually get back there, I was able to lift the back end up by, with the cantilever of the weight in the front, but you see it stayed on the ground pretty good. So let's go ahead and push our limits just a little more here. So I have a couple of those extra little blocks. They're not center blocks. They're kind of like a decorative block for like the top of my knee wall right there that I haven't got around to finishing. So I thought I'd put those on there just for a little extra weight, see what it do. So you see where I backed up just fine, went up that incline just fine, doing a couple little circles just to see how it's going to perform. And overall, I got to say the performance of this thing was, to my surprise, worked out very well, being that I'm carrying somewhere close to 370 pounds at this time. All right, I'm pretty happy with that test right there. I mean, that really kind of showed what this thing can lift up. We know with the 12 blocks on there, that's roughly about 340 pounds. I end up tossing the other 2 on there. Those are probably between 15, maybe 18 pounds a piece. Let's just say 15 pounds. That's an additional 30 pounds on top of that. So this thing just lifted essentially about 370 pounds of weight. And for the most part, it really didn't have any real major trouble lifting it up. The winch seemed like it did okay. I mean, obviously, it went just a pinch slower because of the excess weight, but it wasn't straining. The transmission didn't sound like it was having any issues. As I was applying pressure to the pedal to make it move, it didn't seem like it was having any problem. Now, I wasn't mashing the pedal down, but I was giving it a nice, good, steady pressure going down. So the transmission didn't sound like it was having any issues. I was checking the tires to see if like I was compressing them or flattening them out, and the tires didn't look like they're having any issues. So it doesn't look like I exceeded the overall weight capacity of the tires. So I think the tires are doing pretty good. Overall, I think it did pretty well. You did notice that before I stuck those other two blocks on there, I did put an extra weight in the back here. What I wanted to test there is I wanted to test to see if I jumped off the tractor, would it still hold it up without toppling over? And as you can see, with at least 340 pounds on there with that weight in the back, I could lift it up and the tractor didn't just tip up. Now, I manually lifted up by coming in the back and kind of lifting up on it, but you can see when I let it go, it just came right back down, which is pretty good because I might have to jump off the machine for some reason. And I want to make sure this thing ain't just going to like tip forward on me and knock whatever I have on the forks, knock it off. So overall, I'm really happy with how well this thing performed. I mean, I could probably do 400 pounds with this thing if I really wanted to, but I think I'll stick with at least 350 pounds or less. And if I do decide that I really need to lift something of that kind of weight, I do have that larger tractor over there in the background that I'll use for stuff, something like that. But for basic stuff like what I'm going to be using this for, this is going to be fantastic. I gotta say though, for a lightweight garden tractor, because this wasn't a heavy duty garden tractor, just some random steel that I had in the backyard, and all the steel right here is just regular steel. I mean, none of it's heat strengthened or tempered or anything like that to make it stronger. A homemade actuator, out of a piece of all thread and stuff like that. Overall, I gotta say this thing did very well. I'm very impressed with actually how much weight this thing has lifted up. I hope you guys are just as impressed with how much this thing just did as I am, because I'm pretty happy with it. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you all enjoyed seeing the weight test of this thing, and thanks for watching.